Hello, this is Mr. Teal. Today is the first day of October. I can't believe it, but here we are. This is a video for those people who are absent or need some additional help. Um, Hopefully by now you've looked at the PowerPoint already, you've kind of worked through it on your own, and I'm just here to kind of check your work and help out with any questions you might have. First thing that we're going to do with the self-start is we need to distribute. Yesterday we talked about what distribute means. It's where we take the number that's outside parentheses and we multiply it by what's inside parentheses. And we do that by making rainbows. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with my sound effects. So I'm going to take my -5, woo, woo, and multiply it by a 4f. So -5 times 4 would give me a -20. And then I'm going to put my f here because I don't want to forget my variable. I'm going to do my second rainbow. Don't forget your second rainbow. Woo! Rainbow! A -5 plus a +9 is going to give me a -45. Question 2 wants you to combine like terms. So we practiced this earlier in the week. So I'm going to put a shape around those terms that are similar that I can combine. So I'm going to look through here. I see this one has a y variable, this one doesn't, this one does, and this one does. So I'm going to put a shape around those terms with a y for a variable. Remember to include the sign that's in front of it to kind of help with identifying positives and those negatives. So I have a -6y, -3y, and a -2y. When I combine all of those together, I'm going to be left with a -11y. I combine the 11 and the +10 because neither one of those have a variable, so they have that in common. And 11 plus 10 would give me an answer of 21. Last one, list as many factors as you can of 60. Well, there's 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7 does not go into it, 8 does not go into it, 9 does not go into it. So I'm back to my 10. So here is all of the factors of 60. Here is the thought for the day. You're welcome to hit pause and read it if you so desire. As far as information goes, we had several people for parent-teacher conferences over the phone. I think I talked to 18 different guardians for students. I do have some extra spaces today. If your parents want to set up a time, we can talk. They're welcome to email me as well, and we can set something up for that as too. Just a reminder, your feedback is tomorrow. So those people that will be back tomorrow, we are taking a feedback. It's going to be about combining like terms, distributing, like doing rainbows from yesterday, and factoring, which is what we're doing today. So we've done the self-start for today. So what we're going to be practicing is factoring. One of my classes a couple of years ago called it Wobniars, which is rainbow backwards. So we're going to be undoing the double rainbow that we've been practicing yesterday. So first thing we're going to start with is kind of talking about what factors are and kind of, getting more practice with that. So we're going to list the factors of 8. So you have 1 and 8. You have 2 and 4. Factors of 12. You have 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. Hopefully you're familiar with this. You've been practicing factoring for a couple of years now. So hopefully that part was okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that information that you've learned and we're going to apply it to an expression like this one, 8x plus 12. So the first thing we have to do when we have an expression to factor is we need to find the GCF, or the greatest common factor. We're looking for the biggest number that they have in common. After we get our greatest common factor, we're going to set up our parentheses. So it kind of looks like this. A lot of times people will say, it helps me remember if I draw a face. So there you go. And so what we're going to do with that face that we've just drawn is we're going to put the variable in and then the GCF and just fill in the pieces with the leftovers. So we're going to practice that right now with this problem right here. We already talked about what the factors were. We already said 8 was 1 and 8, 2 and 4. And factors of 12 were 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. So we need to find the biggest number that they have in common. Well, if I look at this, they have a 1 in common. They have a 2 in common. This one has a 4, and I see a 4 over here. So we have a 6 and a 12, but I don't have those as factors, and I don't have 8 as a factor over here. So the biggest number that they have in common is going to be that 4. Because it's right there, and it's right there. So what still remains? So we're going to put our GCF out here on the outside. So next thing we need to do is we need to bring down our variable. So the variable, the x, is with the first term with 8. So I'm going to put that x right there. If I factor a 4 out of 8, I'm going to scribble that out, then that just leaves me with a 2 left over. So I'm going to bring that down. If I factor a 4 out of 12, that's going to leave me with a 3 left over. So factoring, this is the simplified version of it. 4 is my GCF. The 2x is what's left over from the 8x. And the 3 is what's left over from the 12. So we're going to try with this one. We need to list our factors of 3. We have 1 and 3, and that's it. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. Well, they have a 1 in common. This one has a 3, and this one has a 3. There's no 2 and 6 over here, so the biggest number that they have in common is the 3. So I'm going to put that right there. Next thing I'm going to do is see where my variable is. So I'm going to put my variable right here. If I factor a 3 out of 3a, and that just gives me a 1 left over. And you can put the 1 or just leave it blank and just say a. If I factor a 3 out of 6, then I have a 2 left over. For 12, we've got 1 and 12. We've got 2 and 6. 6. Let's try that again. There we go. And we've got 3 and 4. For 16, we have 1 and 16. We have 2 and 8. And we have 4 and 4. So they do have a 1 in common. It's supposed to be 16. There we go. 1 in common. They have a 2 in common, it looks like. 3, nope, I don't see a 3 over here. So they have a 4 in common. I don't see a 6 over here, and I don't see a 12 over here, and I don't see a 16 or an 8 over here. So it looks like the biggest number they have in common is a 4. So I'm going to put my variable next, right there, because it goes with the first term. If I factor a 4 out of 12, I'm left with a 3. If I factor a 4 out of 16, I'm left with a 4. Now the key point to factoring like this is to always check your work. A lot of times students will miss something and they don't check their work to catch their mistake. So I highly encourage you to check your work. To check your work, you just take your answer and you do the rainbow. If you come out with the same as you started with, then you're correct. So I'm going to do my first rainbow. Woo! 3 times 1a would give me 3a. Woo! Rainbow! 3 times 2 would give me 6. So I have 3a plus 6, which is exactly what I started with. So I factored that one correctly. If I do this one, woo! 4 times 3x would give me 12x. Rainbows! 4 times 4 would give me 16, which is exactly what I started with, 12x plus 16. So it is key to remember to please check your work just to make sure that you have factored it correctly. So, like I said, we just need to always check your work. That's the most important thing. If I'm given a problem that looks like this, where I have negatives involved, that's okay. Because first thing I'm going to do is draw my face. There we go. There's Mr. Happy. So I need to start listing my factors. Factors of 2 are just 1 and 2. Factors of 10 are 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. My GCF is going to be the biggest number that they have in common, which is a 2. I'm going to put my variable in here. Now, if I use a superpower, a consequence, I also notice that they both have a negative in common. So I can take that negative out, or I could leave it, but I'm going to go ahead and take it out since they have it in common. I'm just going to put it right out here. So because they have that in common, I'm going to get rid of that because I pulled it out already. Get rid of that because I pulled it out. Now I have a plus sign. If I factor 2 out of 2h, I'm just left with 1h. If I factor a 2 out of 10, I'm left with a 5. If I want to check my work, like I just set up here, make sure you check your work. I'm going to do my rainbow. Woo! A negative 2 times 1h would give me a negative 2h. Rainbow! Negative 2 times a positive 5 would give me a negative 10, which is exactly what I originally started with. So I factor that one correctly. So watch for those negatives. So what do we do if we have negatives? Well, we do the same thing we've just done. Draw our pictures. There's a parentheses. Lists what they have in common. 1 and 4, 2 and 2, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 and 4. They have a 2 in common, but they have something in common that is higher than 2. So don't put 2 down here saying that's my GCF, because it's not, because they have a 4 in common, which is larger. We want the biggest number that they have in common. So don't just be satisfied when you find the first number they have in common. Make sure that they don't have something bigger in common. So there's my GCF. I'm going to bring down my variable. Now, if I use a superpower, I notice that they also have a negative in common. I'm going to take that out as well, so I don't have to worry about it. So let's get rid of that negative, and I'm going to get rid of that negative. Bring down my plus sign. If I factor a 4 out of 4, I'm just left with a 1. If I factor a 4 out of 16, I'm left with a 4. And then check your work. Negative 4, woo, times a 1x would be a negative 4x. Rainbow! Negative 4 times a positive 4 would give me a negative 16, which is what we started with. So we're good. So go ahead and do the homework if you have not already done so. Hopefully we see you guys back soon enough. We miss you. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Have a great day, guys. Bye.